Hey, Vertical.
Hey. Guess what? I'm back. I'm back on the podcast.
Guess who's back?
How many weeks have I not been on this?
A lot.
And for the record, I just want to let everyone know out in YouTube land and the staff as well. I do listen to these episodes when I'm not on them.
Wait, you were on this recently, like a month ago, with your wife.
That's true.
It hasn't
But
been
we
that
all know
long.
I'm an attention hog. So whenever 1 week passes, for me, it feels like a year.
It's okay. I'm here to shut you down.
Yeah,
That's what I've been doing.
They're
years
they're
now.
recording podcasts without me. Which, by the way, spicy episodes talking about purity culture, and this has been coming up a lot in other places there's this book that's come out. Like,
Yes.
apparently this is the thing that Christians are talking about right now. I'm very excited about that.
And so we've brought guests on
Yes.
to talk even more.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Yeah.
And
Our
Chase is
viewing
still
audience.
here to give us
Yeah.
our live applause from the audience there. We have with us today, we have Shelby and Jaycee, and I'm going to let each of you take a minute to introduce yourself and share just a little bit about who you are, and then we can dive into your stories. Go ahead, Jaycee.
All right, I'll go first. I'm Jaycee.
Jaycee who?
Jaycee Terry.
Oh, now
yeah.
everyone knows. We were trying to protect their anonymity.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So you probably, I think y'all have talked about my husband on here a good bit, like his crawfish and how he skips out on the recommends. I don't think he'll skip out this week, but
He better not.
Because he's
No.
been instructed not to?
yeah,
How does
you
that
know,
work? Okay.
he has a vested interest in
The
this.
truth is there's kind of a man crush going on between a couple of the guys on the staff and your husband. So let's just talk about that for a second.
This is true.
Yeah, it's just, well, it's not quite as crazy as it sounds because we do kind of man crush on people around here. Like, I wish I had the
I do
talent
not.
of that guy or the ability to, form an argument like that guy, cook crawfish like that guy. It's just something that happens. So,
Yeah,
but anyway, but you're here.
I'm
and
here.
you're the star of the show this week.
glad to be here.
Yes.
Yeah, so just like,
Just a little bit about like what you do.
Cool.
Yeah.
so I work for Reformed Theological Seminary right now. I just finished their counseling program, and I work for the counseling department. So I am pursuing my licensure to start seeing clients again. Hopefully that'll be finished by the end of the month. But yeah, I just finished up the program. I have a personal interest in working with young adult women, college age and newly married. So I'm super excited to talk about this topic.
We're excited to have you talk about this topic.
Really? There's an insane amount of hours to get that license, right?
Yes.
The practicum's like 5 years.
Yeah, so it's, oh gosh, I should know this number, but I haven't looked at this part of the application yet. So I think I'm just procrastinating on seeing what it actually is. It's overwhelming. It's over 1,200 hours of direct face-to-face interaction with clients. So, and that doesn't count the 400 that I did in not undergrad, my master's program.
That's crazy.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, thank goodness, but that's crazy.
yeah, we have experience. So,
Yeah. Cool.
It's great.
Well, we're excited to hear your perspective today. So, Shelby, what's your story? Top that.
I can't. No, I'm Shelby Maloney. I'm a project manager by day. I volunteer with the youth group here and grew up in church, so I'm a millennial and definitely familiar with purity culture. 'Cause I grew up with it. But I'm excited to be here.
And you grew up not in Mississippi.
That's true. I'm from Southern California and from a charismatic denomination, so
So a little culture shock moving here.
just
and-
a little bit.
It just shows how pervasive that was, though. I mean, Southern California, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was all the way over there.
It was in the Heathenville.
Is that the name of the town you grew up in?
Definitely.
That's crazy. Yeah. All the Mississippians are like, I knew it. I knew that was a town in California.
Those people there.
Yeah. So we start here with this is a plan, right? For you said, Megan, for them to be able to share their story and
Yes.
the parts of purity culture that affected your lives, through that journey. We're appreciative of you being willing to do that, such a public forum, because the truth is, as the other episodes have detailed, so many people were affected by this in so many negative ways. And you guys sharing your story is, I think, going to help a lot of people identify even more and resonate with the effects of it. That's kind of what we're out for today, right?
Yeah.
So, Jaycee, you're going first?
I will.
Okay, cool.
Sure. So, Yeah, I grew up Southern Baptist in the Bible Belt. And so we say that, we were joking the other night that there's a Baptist church on every corner, and there's also a Mexican restaurant on every corner in Laurel. So they kind of go
to
hand in
church,
hand.
go eat
Go eat
Mexican.
Mexican food.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I would say that the churches I went to didn't talk a ton about purity culture, but it was so pervasive in the actual culture of the area. Like, I think Austin said it really well a couple of weeks ago that, like, Mississippi doesn't really teach sex ed, they teach abstinence ed. And so it was like they tried to make it super cool to be abstinent. There was like a club in high school called Teens Getting Involved for the Future, and it was like this cool thing to be a part of.
Getting involved with what?
Well, it's more
Not
like
sex,
not getting
apparently.
involved with
Okay.
things. Yeah.
It's like a
So that-
weirdly named club.
I never realized that until now, but yeah. And it was like juniors and seniors in high school would go into like the 7th grade classrooms and teach these 13-year-olds, like, don't have sex, don't drink, don't do drugs. So it was, yeah, it was interesting.
Okay.
Now the name makes sense. Getting involved for the future of the younger students. Okay.
But yeah, and of course that didn't mean that like the students that were teaching it were preaching, like we're living it out
Right.
too. So it was just very interesting, which I think led to hiding what you're doing more so and living in that isolation. But yeah, so Owen and I started dating when I was 16. He was 17. So we were together like 6 years before. And I mean, this played like a huge role in our relationship. Like, we were leaders in our youth group. Like, we didn't want to screw up. We didn't want to cause anyone else to screw up because they saw us do it. And it was okay. So yeah, we really strived to wait until marriage to really do anything. And yeah, the expectation was always just, as you can expect with purity culture, is just like everything is going to be just absolutely incredible once you're married. Like, you're, I love that laugh.
Seriously, like, wow, that was
Yeah.
like right on time. Thank you.
Yeah. It's just like everything is going to be fantastic. You're not going to have anything to worry about. Like, you just wait. You've done your job. Now go have fun. And that was just not the case for us. We had a really difficult first couple of years of marriage because I think that the people that surrounded us in church were really helpful in, setting us up to have like a good marriage. They poured into us, but once we were married, it was like, okay, have fun. You're off on your own. Y'all can figure it out. And I mean, it doesn't help that we moved away to Jackson too, or I did at least. I moved from Hattiesburg to here during first year of marriage, and that was really hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, things were okay for us for about, I would even say like maybe 3 months, and then something started to shift. And things just became extremely painful for me. Didn't know what was going on, but I was just thinking, this is not supposed to be happening right now. And I saw a doctor, was not helpful, was actually pretty shaming in the process of it. Was just, maybe you just need to calm down. Just,
So helpful.
yeah, incredibly
Exactly what
helpful.
you needed
Is
to
this a
hear
male
in
doctor?
that time.
No, this was a female.
Wow, that surprises me.
Yeah. Was basically just like, it's probably just a desire issue, which I'm like, I'm 22 and I've just gotten married. Like, I don't necessarily think that that's really too much of the issue right now. It hurts. And there's something going on here. And so, in my typical fashion of dealing with things, I didn't want to make a huge deal of it. And I decided to try to push through and ignore the problem. And so, like, when Karen White came on and she talked about trauma at one of our Sunday morning church sessions.
What do you? Church
Therapist.
session.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sessions.
Well done. We were all struggling. Yes, we have struggled with that
Service, my
name
gosh.
for years. Yes.
I'm a little nervous. Sorry.
We had a church session. What a church session.
Okay.
Karen. So Karen comes in. Yes.
Yeah, she talks about little T and big T trauma. And so for me, pushing through and just continuing, because I thought this was what I was supposed to do. This is the job of a wife. We both waited so long for this. I'm not going to keep this from him. Turned into little T after little T after little T. And it got to the point where it became traumatic for me. And I just want to like disclaimer, like Owen is wonderful. There's a reason all these guys have a man crush on him here. Like he's the most gentle human ever. And he would never in a million years pressure me into anything that would hurt me or that I wouldn't want to do. And he was actually the person that was like, we have to stop this until we can get something figured out. So after about like 6 months into marriage, we just stopped having sex for a year because we just could not figure out what was going on. And I felt completely and totally just broken. Like we had done all the right things. We had checked all the boxes that we were supposed to do. And this isn't working for us. Like, why is this happening to us? Like this, it just felt like everything I'd been told was a lie. And I didn't feel confident enough or safe enough to really talk to anyone about it at the time. So it was just it was a period of extreme isolation for us. We were living with this problem. We were trying to act like everything was normal. And it was just spilling over into kind of really every area of our life. So I don't really know what triggered me to go see a different doctor, but I definitely didn't go back to that last one. Found somebody new who actually specialized in like female sexual dysfunction and pain, and had a completely different experience. Like she met with me in her office before we actually went to, like she examined me and everything, and I just broke down when I got to her, just weeping I don't know what is happening. I need help. This is just creating so many issues for us. And I mean, it had gotten to the point where I was like, what if he leaves me for this? Like, this is something that, I mean, it was just completely irrational thoughts going through my head, but like, this is not what he signed up for when he chose me. So she was super helpful. And within this had been like a year and a half in the making. Within 30 minutes, I had a diagnosis and a treatment plan and just felt completely seen, and that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, that this was something that wasn't going to affect us forever. I mean, even if it is a lifelong issue, there are ways for us to deal with this and we can go back to normal. And normal is a subjective term for us, I think. And so I went to therapy, I went to physical therapy, all medications, and it's gotten better. I think that the mental aspect of what happened was the absolute worst, because it really, my body started reacting in a trauma response. And so I think using what I learned through my counseling program and in my own therapy, it's gotten to a point where, things are considerably normal. But I think I say all that to say that purity culture, I think, has good intentions, but the way that we present it can really cause harm within the marriage, just with those expectations that you build up so high. And then when it doesn't work out, sometimes people are just left out to dry. Yeah. So that was our experience with it.
That's courageous. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough thing to hear your side of it, and you felt like you had done everything right. You checked off all the boxes, and it's almost like, as much as I felt like I had done everything wrong in my experience, and so I deserved this, and this. Well, we're also taught that if you do everything right, it's going to be this glowing thing, and you're going to have this reward of a great sex life. And so it's teaching everyone the wrong thing. The intentions were good, but the way it was taught to us and the way we perceived it is, if we can't do this, then something's wrong.
Yeah.
And now we're not okay anymore. And he might leave me because I'm not good enough now, or I can't do what I need to do, or you said it, I'm not what he signed up for. It's heartbreaking. Thank you for sharing that. I know that was hard.
Yeah, it's difficult to talk about those kinds of things, especially when they're so personal, you know? But when I was listening to you, what I was hearing is the expectations of the way that you were raised and taught. That was the third person in the room. And like, it wasn't even your husband. It's this way that you were raised that was putting this pressure on you to think, I am the disappointment. I'm the one that's got the problem. And I think a lot of us have that kind of feeling when, and we pick on the church a lot. We should probably say that, or I do. Let me not say we. I pick on the church a lot because I think it's worth picking on because it deserves the attention to get better. But I also grew up Southern Baptist, and I think our parents took us to the institution for the institution to teach us things about life because they were kind of weirded out to teach us.
Yeah.
The institution systematizes things and then is trying to do behavior modification and just tells us all the dangers, you know, and definitely God's going to be mad at us. But then they don't give us any sort of information about how the whole process works.
Yep.
You know, so especially it's like hush hush when you get married and, well, you guys will figure it out. You know, like that's a really perfect way to handle people's sexuality. Just like figure it out. You know, like this will be great. You know, but I think just it's the purity culture and the way you describe it. And I could be wrong, so that's why I'm opening up to you about it. It sounds like it was very loud for a particular part of the process and very silent for another part, the most important part of the process. Like, well, once you make it to marriage, we're going to be really quiet and we're not going to talk about that, you know, which left you out on your own, you know, and you had basically the hangover of purity culture affecting your mentality when you started having problems sexually in your marriage, which, by the way, what marriage doesn't have sexual problems? Is there one? I mean, I haven't talked with anyone who's had like the perfect sex life. I mean, except for the guy that writes the book, right? Or the woman that writes the book. And then releases the Christian video. But
well, the guy that wrote the book decided that
he doesn't believe in Jesus.
He doesn't believe that anymore.
Yeah,
so.
That's right. So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I think we should say like, thank you for sharing that. Man, I'm so sorry that has been your journey, and probably more people that are listening their journey as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just insane after I finally started feeling comfortable enough to open up about it and to talk with people, and especially like my friends who were getting married, because we were some of the first of our friends to get married. And so I make sure to have like intentional conversations with them and then follow up afterward. And it's shocking how many people have had similar situations. Like you would just never know unless someone said something. And so I'm happy to be here and talk about it if it can affect somebody else. And
it will, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have a different story, obviously.
A little bit. I mean, I grew up in purity culture, and I remember 7th grade signing my little True Love Waits pledge and getting my purity ring in church that I wore all throughout college.
I just love your tone of cynicism. It's so perfect.
Yeah, that's kind of a permanent thing. And I do, like, I agree. I think the intentions were good. And I had parents that were really open about their past and the disappointments they had from decisions that they made. And so that really reinforced the decision to wait for me. I also really like rules. And so when I decided when I was 12 years old I wasn't going to have sex, that lasted till I got married. But I definitely had friends that had really similar issues. I had one girlfriend that got married and they couldn't have sex for over a year after they first got married and had to talk to doctors. And And it was always something that, like, in college as girlfriends, we would like talk about our first year of marriage and, oh, we're going to have sex every day when we first get married because it's going to be so great. And then you actually
Where
get
were you in
married. And
school?
it's like, I went to Bible college. Like,
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. We were all just like pent up and,
Yeah.
you know, but I, you know, Blake and I got married. We had waited, and I had a similar experience. Like, I felt like I was going to have a reward because I waited, and that was the message that was given. And I thought angels would sing, and angels have never sung, and it was
Isn't that
real.
so disappointing?
Yeah, like they tell you that you're just going to have this like awesome experience, and it's like, well, that was disappointing. Sorry, Blake.
This does intrigue me. I haven't heard this part of it because always the guys are you know, funneled off to a different room and all that.
Yeah.
But this was the message.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I think it was the message that, like, if you wait, it's this awesome gift to yourself and your husband. And if you don't, I mean, we talked a little bit when we were preparing for this, the analogies of like, oh, pass this Coke around, and by the time it gets to your husband, he doesn't want all the backwash. Or pass this chewed piece of gum around, and by the time it gets to the end, like,
Never the men.
No.
Just the women.
yeah. And so there was lots of stuff growing up that like felt like it was my responsibility to take on. Even like church camps, the girls have to wear the one-piece bathing suits and the t-shirts and the shorts, but we never talk about the boys being respectful or diverting their eyes. You know, like, there's lots of things that I think led into marriage, but because I had parents that kind of had the secular view on sex as well. I mean, they encouraged me to wait. My dad and my stepmom did. Because I could like learn from their experiences, I felt like I had a more healthy attitude walking into it. My mom has always been really open about sex and marriage and the way those things work. So I knew I had somebody to go to, but I have met so many women that just feel like they don't work. You know, like I talked to somebody recently that got married. I reached out to her and let her know, like, hey, if you have questions, like, let me know. I've been married for a while, and this stuff is tough at first. And I think you mentioned earlier something that kind of triggered in my mind, like purity culture. We like to talk a lot about not having sex, and we'll be vocal about that. But then there's no follow up on how to have sex or what's normal when you first get married. It just drops off into the abyss.
Yep.
Yeah. So then the person that gets to figure it out is, you know, equally as inexperienced or very experienced, just in ways that they would never be willing to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, so I just think it's very interesting, probably what we're running into, and this will be dangerous in some respects, but who cares? We're running into like this patriarchal society and influence that is held over a lot, especially in some of the denominations here in the South. And from the guy's point of view, not to sabotage this, but just to give you guys probably weren't in the other. From the guy's point of view, and we've talked about this even on this podcast, you know, you have men who are uncomfortable talking about sex, trying to talk to young men about sex.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, what are you giving us here? You know, like, okay, don't look at porn and don't masturbate. All right, can we go play Ultimate now? You know, like that's the whole thing, you know? And so like the complexity of these issues, it makes sense that, and if you tried to crack open a resource, it was probably written by a man, you know, who is being paid by an organization that's run by a man just to put something out there so that churches that are run by men will purchase that resource. And, you know, it really does. It's unfortunate that usually and this has happened a lot in Christian culture, the women have to bind together and help each other because the system isn't helping them, you know, and everybody loses. But so as far as you guys and like rolling into marriage, this kind of showed up as an issue for y'all as well, right?
A little bit. I mean, I think because my parents had kind of prepared me, there wasn't the level of shame going into it. You know, I've talked with a lot of women that like it's this super shameful thing until 30 minutes after you're married, and now it's not, and it's totally allowed. And I think that causes a lot of issues in mentally, like, oh, like this is okay now. Should I feel guilty? Should I not? I feel really thankful that I didn't struggle with that. I definitely did feel the like guilt and shame when we would cross boundaries in college and for dumb stuff. But like I gave Blake my promise ring one time because I felt real dramatic about it and was like, oh, you know, but just like silly things that we feel like our worth is so tied up in this one event, you know, that really, like, it's a part of life. It happens. And I'm grateful that we waited, and I'm grateful that our only experiences are with each other. But I don't think my friends that didn't wait are less human or less valuable because they didn't. And I think that's the message that gets sent a lot.
No doubt. You've spoken at length about that.
Definitely. And I think, too, we're now having to face how do we teach this correctly to the next generation, because we had the people who didn't know how to teach it, teaching it to us. And so they're handed the purity culture talk and the rings and the cards and the books. And, oh, okay, well, we'll just teach this. And that obviously didn't work for anyone, because weighted or not, there's issues. So now we're determining what's the right way to teach this next generation coming up so that they aren't feeling this. So you're a small group leader and your girls are young, but that doesn't really mean that they're not experiencing things or hearing things.
Not. I mean, I was there. I'm the 7th grade girls group leader. That's when I signed my little pledge, you know? And I think what's important, and what I think our generation missed out on, we were told what not to do and what to do, but we weren't told why.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big part, or maybe the why wasn't a good enough why. Like, to be a gift to your husband is not a good enough why anymore. And so I think to say, like, you know, it prevents your mind from wandering, or jealousy within your marriage, or I don't know. I waited, so I don't know what it prevents, to be honest. You know, I think it's one of those things that you don't really know the damage unless you've done it. So I don't know. I do think it's helpful to hear experiences, and our girls have told us that recently. We want to hear more of your stories, and I don't think we got a lot of that growing up.
Yeah. It will be good for them to hear stories, and it helps them connect with you, and they'll know how to come to you for those things. So, what about you? And you're not leading a small group of teenagers, but you're on the path to counseling people who have been through this, through stories similar to mine or Shelby's or yours, Ben's. What does that look like for you? What are you seeing come out of this?
So, what I'm seeing is just a pull to being more honest and open, which I think comes gradually in the counseling process. You can feel a little bit more free to talk about what you want to talk about. But I think just, I'm about to clap. I'm losing what I'm saying right now.
No, go with it. Yeah. It's good to hear the struggle, because the people who are listening also struggle.
Yeah, I think help me understand what you're asking with that.
So you mentioned that you've studied this. Obviously, this is an area that you see needs help.
Yes,
these women and men are coming out of this and realizing they have the trauma, whether it's a big T trauma or a little T trauma. So talk a little bit about that. What you're seeing, this generation that has been through this, and now they need to heal so that we can fix it for the next generation. What does that look like? I know you mentioned statistics at one point.
Oh, yeah. So I think I looked up some stuff before coming on here, and one organization said that 1 in 6 women have experienced either attempted or completed rape, and 1 in 33 men. And that there is an assault every 73 seconds in the United States. So, and I mean, that's only talking about rape. That's not talking about other aspects of assault. That's not talking about what I consider non-contact assault, which is just when you're not physically touched, but something has occurred.
Yeah.
And that's not counting trauma that even occurs in a loving, committed relationship, which, not to compare, I think that's apples to oranges in this. So I
Right.
don't even want to compare what's happened to me to someone who has experienced that. But it's so prevalent. And it's something that I think is being talked a little bit more about in culture now, just because of things that have come out in the news lately. And yeah, I think that there needs to be more of an awareness, even from people who haven't experienced this, that there is definitely someone that you're coming in contact with who has.
Do you see a lot of, I'll just say women, who have experienced that assault and then because of the purity culture movement feel like they've lost their value from that point?
I haven't necessarily seen it in the counseling room. That's probably because I'm green. But I would definitely say that within my friends that I've talked to about this, nearly every person that I've talked to here lately about their marriage and sex and how it's been for them has had some type of issue. And it's just so defeating for them. And I think that there's such a tremendous sense of shame that comes along with that. And I think it's because it is such an isolated topic. People don't want to bring it up. It's too taboo of an issue. That's not proper talk, I think, sometimes. Like, people think it's not okay to talk about that in church. I'm so glad that we do here. Because shame just breeds in isolation like that. And so you just keep thinking about, man, I am just broken. This is not what it's supposed to be. And then you see things on TV and where everything is going perfectly for everyone. And then you see Instagram and you see Facebook of all of these super happy marriages. And you're thinking, why is this not working for me? So I think that it is way more pervasive than we want to believe that it is.
Right.
And that others, want us to see. So,
What does it look like to go from living in that shame to healing? What do you guys think about that? When you're talking to your friends and preparing them for something, or case studies and helping someone move from living in that shame and feeling the worthlessness into the direction of healing?
I think that it's a long process first, because the shame is a piece that can get stuck within your story, and it can kind of become an aspect of life that you accept as part of your identity. Like, guilt is, I've done something wrong. Shame is, I am bad. I am wrong with the way that I do everything. And so I think just helping people realize, like, because of what has been done to you is not who you are. And what has happened to you is not who you're going to be and who you were designed to be. I think that God created us as incredibly resilient people as well. So you don't always have to be stuck there. But
I would agree. I think just being told that, like, you're still valuable over and over and over and over again.
Have you seen a difference? I know you've seen a difference. Tell us more about the difference from growing up in Southern California and moving to the Bible Belt, especially being around teenagers and the lifestyle.
You know, it's interesting because I've had similar conversations with Austin about, like, abstinence-only education. And that's what I had growing up, too, in Southern California. I think people think, like, Southern California is this big liberal. And I did grow up in a conservative area. It was, like, probably the Madison of California. It's called Rancho Cucamonga, if anyone's real interested.
Cucamonga.
So that probably colors things. Like, I wasn't in downtown LA, you know? And it was like 15 years ago that I was going through all that stuff. So there are definite differences, though. I mean, I think Christianity is a lot more cultural here than it is where I was growing up. If you were a Christian where I grew up, like it was more than just I go to church on Sunday. You know, it wasn't like a expected event. One of the things I laughed about when I moved here was like people would ask, like, "How are you? Where do you go to church?" And I was like that's a greeting, you know?
Yes.
And that's that.
Did you find a church home yet?
Yeah. That did not happen growing up. That wasn't a thing. But I mean, other than that, I like purity culture wise, I think it is really very similar from what I've heard and stories I've been told.
Yeah.
Well, it was a program, right? I mean,
It was.
it was a program that was being pushed. And I mean, look, we should extend some grace to the people who sat in a room and thought, we should probably address this. You know, they didn't address it very well, but they did decide to move into the space, but it was driven by the time. And I think you said something earlier I want to loop back to, because we've talked about this a lot here at Vertical lately. It's the why that we need to be discussing, you know, and for me, sitting in a room or around a campfire and having an older man ask me why that's a pretty powerful question. You know, it allowed me to discover, and I've shared this very publicly, so it's old news, but that I was using my sex with my wife as validation for me. Like, oh man, life is crazy and I don't feel like I'm successful at blah, blah, blah. So I need to win in the bedroom, you know? And she could pick up on that. And it was a real problem. But the question of why, like, well, why would we abstain from sex until we marry someone? Well, because God says so. Well, there's lots of other things God says. I'm not doing those either, you know? So this is a fun one. So forget it, you know? And you combine that with the forgiveness piece and it's like, oh, well, you know, let's move on. But the why of, okay, let me tell you why, because you are right now building a sexual portfolio. That's what you're doing, you know? And as we're talking to young men these days, well, not even young men, but all men, like, well, what's the big deal about pornography? Well, the way that you're watching sex occur is the way you're going to mimic sex with people in real life, you know, and this isn't reality. Like, you do know that, right? And
It's not real. It's degrading.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's, you know, we say this a lot too, but there's like probably someone just off camera with a gun, you know,
Right.
to that, you know, or at least if it's not that violent, they've trapped them economically, you know? So I think being able to discuss the why, as you're talking about healing, and that's a lot we're participating in here right now. Like, why are we not talking about sex inside of marriage? Why are we telling people this is shameful and you're probably going to get an STD anyway, so don't do that, you know? And then, but once you get married, you know, it is like true love waits, and you can hand each other, you know, she'll be in lingerie and you'll be like ripping your clothes off, and then you hand each other your card, and that'll be the foreplay, right? You're like, this is so confusing to me.
You also have to trade rings.
Trade rings,
forgot
yes.
that part.
Yeah, you're like,
At one point, I was like, I'm going to have my ring melted into Blake's wedding ring. I
There
did
you
not
go.
do that.
Oh,
yeah. So, but are you serious?
So serious. But the funny thing is that it wasn't even a True Love Waits ring. It was like one that Owen just gave to me that I convinced him to give it to me more than anything. So like, yeah, I thought about it at one point. I wore that thing until our wedding day, and then I don't know where it is now. So
Feel you on that, yeah. But I think the big thing is pulling this out into conversation, and that's what we're doing, right? We're saying that we are Christian people that have experienced Christianity over the years, and we're willing to talk about its shortcomings, and we're willing to discuss the real problems that are there, because we don't want to throw purity out the window. We don't want to throw Christianity out the window,
right.
but we do want to describe, like for our sons and daughters, the real reasons behind these things, you know, and to process through those awkward moments where our children or the people in our group are looking at us going, wait a minute, you know, like, what does that mean? Yes, that's what that means, you know? So I guess navigating through that and being willing to be people's guides, you know, you're stepping into in this church being a group leader, which is essentially saying, I'll be your guide. I will help you through this. You have now, 48,000 hours later, once you get your license, you're saying to people, strangers off of the street, I will be your guide. I will help you through this, from a Christian point of view. And I think that's a lot of the healing. And to maybe we don't say normal, but we say normalize.
Yes.
Right? You've normalized your story by telling it so much to other people, anybody who's willing to listen. I've normalized my story. Like, this is a little weird to hear from people that work at a church, but we do it.
But
right?
it is what it is.
Yeah.
We love to say that around here. And it's not going to change, but now I've done the work to understand the why and how things did affect me and what I had to work through. And now I can teach my daughter or someone else, it's okay. You're not going to fall off the earth into the pits of hell because you make a mistake. You don't have to turn your card in or your ring in because you make a mistake. But also, here is the why. It's not just because the Bible says so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or I don't
That was
even,
a very effective little Christian pat you did there.
Yes, pay attention.
Yeah. Chase is like, please quit hitting the table. So I feel we kind of like we've talked a little bit about healing, but I'd love for you guys to be able to give like kind of a final, like, hey, let's pursue healing in this way. Unfortunately, we're out of time to be able to do that today. But for our next episode, I would love for you guys to join us again so we can talk about concrete steps. We've clearly identified the problem. Let's take some concrete steps, guide people to how you can experience a God in your life in this area. All right, in honor of Chase. Ask us anything. Wow.
Anything.
How do you break the tension from talking about sexual trauma? Bring up random questions from the audience.
And if you have never asked us a question, we would love for you to do that.
Shame on you. No, I'm kidding.
We're not talking about shame anymore, Ben. We're done with shame.
Yeah.
But we have cards in our lobby. If you're here on Sunday morning, you can fill one out.
Or scan the code to fill it out.
Scan the
online.
code. That's right. And I believe there's something on our website.
Yeah.
Hey Vertical. That's
a button.
that's my line. They
Yeah.
stole it from me, put it on the website, and you can
Vertical.
ask us a question there. So ask us anything. We have 2 questions today.
2.
Are y'all ready?
Born
So
ready.
ready.
Okay. The first is, what is the most expensive thing you've broken?
I'll go first for this one. So my freshman year of college, Blake, who is now my husband, came and visited me in my dorm room. We were hanging out. He had his laptop in his lap working on homework. I was a cheerleader in high school. And who knows why I decided to do a cheerleader kick at the time. And
Wait, you weren't in the middle of like a cheerleader story, or are you just like, hey, this feels like the right time?
Cheerleaders just do this randomly.
Yeah, we do. And
I'm raising one.
Can you describe a cheerleader kick?
Yeah.
Like what?
You kick your foot back and then just like forward and arms up.
Okay.
So I mean,
okay.
just a straight kick, and my foot hit the back of his computer screen. His computer closed in his lap. He slowly opened it, and I was like, "Is it broken?" And he didn't want to tell me. I could tell on his face that it was broken. And being the nice boyfriend he was, he did not let me pay for it, which was real dumb. Cause
What a pushover.
I like my parents would have paid for it for sure, and his parents could not. And he worked all throughout high school and college, and so way to go, Blake.
Unbelievable.
Man.
So your
What a
mistake
man.
ranks at like the $1,000 range, $800 range.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. Starting off pretty strong.
But when you're 18, 19 years old, that's a
Might
lot
as
of
well
money.
be 18,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Most expensive thing you've ever broken. Megan's like, I don't do things like that.
I don't. I really haven't broken anything. I've been in a car accident, but it was not my fault. But I mean, I broke my car and took out a light pole. I was run
No, I
off the
don't think that
road by
counts.
someone who was drinking, so there was that.
I don't think that
but
counts.
Totally not your fault.
This has to be like personal responsibility involved. So we have a hand raised. He's coming to the mic. Here we
Chase
go.
would like to
Yes.
share his story.
I used to work at the city of Ridgeland, recreation.
Parks and Rec.
Nope, recreation and parks.
Recreation and parks.
We used to have to do the banners in the city and use a hydraulic lifted bucket truck.
Oh no.
And one time, my name is not Chase Hammock. One time I accidentally left the hydraulics on overnight, and it cost tens of thousands of dollars for them to
Replace the hydraulics.
replace all the hydraulics in the bucket truck.
Tax
Wait,
dollars.
And I never got caught.
Original living right.
Wow.
You
What a
have to
place
be
to-
out of the statute of limitations
What a place
now,
to be.
right?
Yeah. Surely you're beyond
Hopefully.
accountability.
Yeah, just talk to Owen.
I was an employee, so like I would have been covered regardless.
Still.
Oh, okay.
You wanted to remain an employee.
Yes.
All right. So we've gone from roughly $800 to, we'll give it
I think it was like
40, replacing
gosh.
a bucket truck.
Chase
$40,000.
wins.
Yeah,
Yeah, Chase
that's
wins.
way more than mine.
All right. So was this in Laurel? Can we?
This was in Laurel.
Okay.
And funny enough, it also involves cheerleading, which is hilarious.
What an expensive thing to be involved in. Am
Uh,
I right? Am I
yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So expensive.
So I was at a friend's house and we had like this movie night, and then all the girls stayed over, and it was this big sleepover. We did this like most weekends, and it was like, you know, the 13-year-old thing to do, to just do toe touches everywhere that you go. And so we were in the kitchen, and I don't know what they were doing, but I just decided that I was going to start doing toe touches. And I kept moving backwards and more backwards and more backwards until I hit the stove, and I broke the handle off the stove. So I didn't break the whole stove.
Could have been worse.
It
for
could have
sure.
been so much
Yeah.
worse. Like,
That's not that big
yeah,
of a deal.
it's not that big of a deal.
But at that age, it
Unless
probably
they have an
felt like
older
was like-
stove
You
and
broke
can't
the
fix the
house.
handle, and then they just have to replace the
I
whole
don't
thing.
know. I just, it happened, and her mom said, "It's fine, we'll take care of it." And I tried to never think about it again until right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You look a little sick. Are you okay?
yeah.
All right.
All the guilt.
Yeah.
It's okay.
You know, that's
don't
it.
feel
It's
don't feel
guilt,
ashamed
it's not
by
shame.
that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It's out in the open now. It's not in isolation. We're good.
Yes.
There we go.
All right. I have two things, both related to females, that I've broken. They're the
Hearts.
most expensive. No, that was the joke. It was a great joke. It was a great joke. We'll start with probably the least expensive first. I was installing a shelf in Reshma's office one day. And she had been bothering me about this for at least 8 months. And finally, I made my way around to doing this. While I'm doing that, I knock an hourglass, minute glass, what would you call this?
An
It was-
hourglass.
Yeah, it's an hourglass, miniature. And she had traveled back from Bangladesh with this. And it was given us like this really personal gift. And I, with my drill, knocked it off of her desk. And I just stared at it as this liquid that apparently had been in there since 1771 or whatever comes out of this
Definitely
hourglass.
the 1800s.
Yes, and I can confirm on this podcast that I've searched for another one of these since then. But she goes, "No, you didn't," because I was looking at like grief stricken, and it took a while for it to sink in. I think she still kind of holds this against me, but apparently that was priceless, and I broke it. Okay,
That's
so
the least bad one.
that's the least bad one. Yeah,
Oh,
because
yikes.
I was a little older and could kind of handle like, gosh, it was totally an accident. I'm very sorry. The other one happened when I was younger. I was on a charter bus on a church trip. We were in Florida, so away from home, and we were, I can't remember exactly what we were doing. Mission Fuge. We were at Mission Fuge. But we had taken a day to go to one of the Disney parks or something or another. We get back to the bus and everyone's parched. And so they're passing around like, okay, here are the drinks, guys. Here are the drinks. And I'm on a seat with a friend of mine, a guy friend of mine, and the girl that he's dating is about 3 seats back. And she says, "Hey, will you get me one?" And he gets her a drink, the guy that's sitting next to me. And she's like, "Here, throw it to me." And the guy's like, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not throwing you this drink." Obviously, the wise decision. I'm sitting next to the guy, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, give me the drink." Canned drink, full canned drink. Just came out of a cooler. Condensation galore. Okay. I take it and toss it 3 seats back, underhanded, to this very athletic girl, by the way, also a cheerleader. Man, if I'd only known then what I know today. But I throw her this drink, and she catches it, tries to catch it underhanded, and fumbles and knocks it up into the air. Only when I say air, I mean directly into her face, and breaks her front teeth. It right there in the charter bus
With a soda can?
with the soda can.
That's humiliating.
Guaranteed it happened. So she had to visit like the the emergency dentist in Kissimmee, Florida, wherever we were. I cannot even imagine how expensive. And it was after hours on the weekend sort of stuff. But I mean, it busted her lip. She's bleeding everywhere. So I think that was probably the most expensive thing I've.
Okay, so I didn't think in that direction of like harming someone.
So now you have an answer?
So now I do.
Okay.
So I was 12 or probably 13, and we were playing home run derby in our neighborhood with the neighborhood kids. And my best friend and her little sister and my little sister were all there. Our parents were best friends. Our sisters were the same age. We're the same age. So we're all there, and the little sisters are sitting on the back of the car that's behind us where we're hitting the ball. And we told them, do not get down while someone is at bat. Do not get down. So I'm at bat, and I hit the ball very hard, and I'm swinging back around as her little sister decides to get off of the car, and I broke her nose.
Ooh, right in the face?
Yes.
Oh, that was an
Yes.
expensive repair.
Yes. It was
Yikes.
traumatic.
Chase just had like a visceral reaction.
Yeah, he
to
knew.
that.
He knew it was
Yes.
on its way.
It was
Totally
traumatic.
accidental. Wow, I love how we combined that question to physical trauma.
I
That's
know.
so good. Look at us.
know.
Look at
How
how
did we do
talented we
that?
are.
I didn't even think that way. It was for the record.
Yeah.
For the
Ben,
record, I brought
Ben
it
went
up.
there.
All right,
and-
let's get out of these bad memories. Next
Okay.
question.
So our next question is, what is the last picture you took
Like at Olin Mills or
on your phone with
Hot
your
shots.
iPhone or Android phone
okay, everyone
camera?
on YouTube sees that we're checking.
Yeah.
So who wants to
All
go
right, we're gonna
first?
Go the rounds.
So-
Click photos.
I'm shocked. Well, the last picture in my picture roll is a picture of my dog named Ross. He's very photogenic in this picture.
Look at that.
I didn't take that one though. Owen sent it to me. It's kind of boring. The last picture I took is an empty room.
Wait, let us see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Oh, it
red
is.
carpet.
Red carpet with an empty room. Is that a
Very-
garage door?
It's not. It's just a huge window.
Okay.
Like just imagine this. It's just a gigantic room with this huge window that opens up into. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's super scenic, but a parking lot with a lot of trees in it. There used to be like this gigantic conference table in there with different bookcases, and it was like the best place to study. So we're going through and cleaning out things in the library right now, and seeing this room empty just brought up a whole bunch of memories of like studying there with my friends from grad school. And so I took a picture and sent it to them.
They ruined it. That's what you're
It
trying to
ruined
say.
it.
Took away all your
Took
great
my memories away. Yeah.
What's the where are we now? The,
Up the fingers came
all
up.
this went
There
away.
you go. Yeah.
Gone with the bookshelves.
Flipped it up. Yep.
All right, Megan, picture.
All right, next. So funny. The most recent thing on my camera roll is a screenshot of the cheerleading calendar for Germantown High School. However, the last picture I took was of Macy and Sawyer, my littles,
little mom
sharing
photo.
a
Look at
snow
that.
cone yesterday.
Did I see that on
Very
Facebook?
cute. I
We
did.
seen- is this a
Yes,
public
it was on my
picture?
story.
Okay. Sorry.
Facebook.
Facebook.
It was on Instagram
You boomer.
and carried over to Facebook.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Saw
right.
that.
Mine is a really empty freeway. So Blake and I went to Chattanooga last weekend and came home yesterday. And I was on the phone with my dad, who was coming home from Havasu back to Rancho Cucamonga. And
Wait, what just happened? What, are those names of places?
you've never heard of Havasu?
Have a sewer.
It's in Arizona.
Camp-
Kikiwaka or what did you just say?
Salute your shorts.
Havasu is lake, river, I don't know, some big party place in Arizona.
Okay.
Rancho Cucamonga. My friend's stepson calls it Rancho Cowabunga.
I love that.
That is
where-
the best name.
Where I grew up, but they were stuck in hours and hours of traffic. So I thought I would rub it in and send my picture of perfectly clear freeways
So it
in
was a
Mississippi.
vindictive picture is what you're
absolutely.
trying to say. Huh, well, Good for you.
Absolutely.
Way to go public with that.
Yeah.
We have therapy available if you need it.
Yeah.
All right, this I'm going to say, even though he's not on the mic, Chase, brace yourself for the most Ben story you've probably ever heard. Right down the fairway. So this is the picture that's on my camera roll, right? is actually a picture of a church pew
Okay.
that I am redoing.
I had a friend in college who did that.
Yep.
What's the wood?
It is heart pine. Okay.
Oh.
The reason I know this is because my great grandfather purchased these pews for a church that my grandfather on my other side of my family actually was the pastor of. So there's all sorts of family history here, which is like right down the middle for Ben Derrick, like family history, nostalgia. So my parents went to pick it up today, and it was covered in paint because in the 40s and 50s they painted everything. But this pew actually was in the church where my parents met when my parents met.
Wow.
That's really
so
cool.
It's like all kinds of family history there. So I'm trying to redo it without breaking it. But the pews were purchased for an entire church for $25 in 1904.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, man, if it only worked that way now.
Yes.
If only the gray chairs were
$25 per
$25.
chair, actually
More.
double that.
Yeah, more per
Yes.
chair. So that's the last picture that I took. Very Ben thing. And then the picture before that, just for good measure, I was trying to prove to the staff that I actually do work. So I took a picture of some chairs that were set out that I'm later going to post on Slack.
Okay.
Yeah.
That you put them out all by yourself?
All by
You pushed
myself,
them with the
all
dolly?
30 of them. Push them with the dolly. It was
Did the dolly have air in the
it was a
tires?
banner moment. Yes, because I had previously put air in those tires. Thank
Very
you very
good.
much.
We're real proud.
Yeah. So Chase, what have you got? Oh, you don't have a mic. So sad.
Aw.
He's on his way? Yeah, come
Come on, Chase.
Come on, man. Jump in here.
He's been prepared.
So we're recording this in the evening, as YouTube can see. And so I took the time this morning to go on a walk with my wife, Rachel, whom I love.
Smoking hot
and
wife.
smoking
Smoking
hot wife. And my daughter, Liv, of whom I also love, who is beautiful. And so we were passing by a yard, and it was some of the tallest grass I've seen in a neighborhood in my entire life.
Impressive.
Which does not bother me at all. But there is another man crush in our atmosphere by the name of Micah Thomas, who cannot freaking stand
Tall grass. That's his thing.
tall grass in a neighborhood. Any kind of code breaking in a neighborhood,
Yep.
which
HOA man.
which we do not have in North
Future
Place. So this is all fair game. And so I sent it to him, and I said, "Thought of you earlier today."
That's awesome.
That was
Well
it.
played.
How
well
did he
played.
respond to that?
He said, "I'm trying to relax over here." And
I'm trying to relax. All right. Time for recommends.
Yes.
Right? One of the most favorite segments of the podcast today. So,
you didn't leave room for the theme song.
oh, sorry.
We'll do it here. Recommends,
Man, what a song. What a song. Well done. Well done. I've always wanted to ask, is that you on keys, Chase?
Yeah.
Wow. Man of many talents. All right. So this is a part of the podcast. We're wrapping things up now where we talk about things that our listeners should want, need, wear, and read.
And why do we do this?
We picked this up from my mother-in-law, Janice, who absolutely hates the commercialization of Christmas, as do most of us, really. And she has culled it down to these 4 gifts that you give each other. You're able to submit, and sometimes you don't get all of them, but these are things that we're like, if you're trying to buy a gift for someone for Christmas, and it's down to these 4 things, these would be good things to purchase.
Absolutely.
So we've divided them up. Our guests are taking wear and
Read.
Oh, praise. Thank goodness. Those are the hardest ones to decide. So we always go in this order: want, need, wear, read. So you actually have the
I
want.
have the want. Yes. And I can't believe I've never recommended this as long as we've been doing this. I don't know what episode we're on now, but you should want to buy, if you are someone with a lot of hair that you don't want to wash
gosh,
every day.
Could you pick something more offensive?
Put it in your beard.
You know what? Yes, put it in
Yeah.
your beard.
If you're someone who has hair, oh my gosh.
I said a lot of hair. I
Okay.
didn't just say
All right.
hair.
Keep going.
Dry shampoo. Specifically, the dry shampoo by the brand Batiste, which is the only one that I feel like works correctly. It's got this powdery stuff in it, but it doesn't like stay there. It absorbs. And instead of washing my hair every day, I can go a few days between
Okay,
washes.
so this is the goal. Delaying
Yes.
bathing. Wow, you fit right in with the people
No,
that don't
you
wash their
still
legs.
bathe.
Bathe.
You
You
still
just don't
bathe.
wash your hair.
Yes. Because the hair
takes a
is
lot of work.
process.
Okay.
You have to wash
Admittedly,
it,
I do not understand
condition,
this problem.
product, blow dry.
At
all of
least
those
an extra
things.
hour. For,
Yes.
Yeah.
You have a
Absolutely.
wife. You should know
That's
this.
difficult.
She also uses the dry shampoo.
Yeah, no, I don't know that, but she doesn't complain too much about it. She has one of those towels that she puts on that like supposedly soaks up with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It cuts down on the drying time.
It's fake. Fake news.
Fake news.
I like the Batiste too because you can get the colors.
Yes.
And so, like, your hair isn't white too. Mm-hmm. Smart move.
it's good stuff.
Yeah.
How much is
Batiste,
this
you
stuff
should
a can?
sponsor me.
That's
I
what we
buy
need
it
to know.
all the time.
Like, I mean, if you buy like the Batiste or another like drugstore brand, it can be like $3 to $5.
Oh
They can-
man, that's
yeah.
a cheap jump in there. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can get up to like 20 or 30
yeah.
If you buy it from the salon.
for sure.
But I don't really care for the salon brands, honestly.
Yeah, who does really? All right. Dry shampoo. I don't know who all the men use this as well.
I have known men that use it.
Wow. Wow, that's impressive.
In
Just all kinds
college.
of things are opening up here. In college where I was breaking computers. Okay, need. This is going to be very specific. I've jumped back into this world lately. Price point, $40 for a good one. Okay,
Okay.
you can find them on Amazon. I've jumped back into the tins unit game. You guys know what
Oh,
a tins
yeah.
unit is?
For sure.
Man,
they send like little electrical pulses.
Yes, yeah. So you have the pads, and you're able to put actually, if you go to a chiropractor,
Yes.
you probably spend some time on it. Theirs are better. Okay, let's admit that. But the at-home versions are awesome. And now they're getting to where they have like relax mode instead of just repair mode, where you're like, shaking your living room. You could actually watch TV in relax mode, and it just your muscles contract in a non-violent way, right? So, but it really helps with soreness. And I store stress, which, believe it or not, working at a church can get moderately stressful.
Interesting.
Yes, I store stress in my neck and shoulders. Like when I get home, I realize I've had my shoulders up like this all day. And for $40, you can watch a little Netflix and put that tins unit on. Change your life. Change your life. Yeah. So after you dry shampoo, use your tins unit.
Or tinge it while you're dry shampooing.
Hey,
because you
yeah,
have extra
but-
time.
yeah.
That's right.
I'm sure there's no danger there.
All right, JC, you are
Where?
where?
Okay, so we are planning a trip to Disney World in June. And so it's going to be incredibly hot. And so I've been on the lookout for good athletic wear that I can pack up in my carry-on and just go. And I found these shorts at Target that I absolutely love. They're they're the brand Active On. And they're a dry fit material. They're only like $25, which is cheap if you're comparing this to like Adidas, Nike, anything like that. And they're actually like pretty stylish. So you wouldn't really know that they are like that dry fit athletic material. So they kind of look like paper bag shorts a little bit, like a 2021 version of those. So I'm loving them. And I think you should buy them if you're on the market.
I tried to buy some Saturday, and they were mostly sold out.
They have them online, so you can get them picked
I'll
up.
have to go look and
Because I
see.
bought one pair, and I'm about to go get like 2 more.
This just gets more crazy. You went to a Target?
Can you believe it?
That is unbelievable.
Are you shocked?
You just gave Megan another reason to go
Right
to Target.
before I went to a Costco to buy food for my family.
Yes. All right, read.
All right. Full disclosure, I have not finished this book.
That's
so-
okay. I've recommended books I've never started.
Sounds good.
Yes.
This one is called Hunt, Gather, Parent. I don't actually have children. I'm a licensed foster parent, so I like to prepare. But a woman wrote this, and she writes for NPR, and she used to travel all over the world doing research on viruses. Once she had a baby, she kind of stayed more local. But she noticed that children in the cultures she used to visit were much better behaved than children in American cultures, and wanted to figure out why. And so she took her toddler, she was 2 or 3 at the time, to a few different places. So they visited the Maya, the Inuit, and the Hadzabe, and talked with moms, dads, grandpas, grandmas, great-grandmas, and great-grandpas about parenting. And it's all about the different parenting strategies that she learned and a
Oh,
huge.
those are cultures. I thought those were towns next to the town you grew up
Yeah.
in. Now I'm up to speed.
Yep, not all in California.
So
Cultures in other countries.
yes, non-American parents and what led to their success.
Yep, and a lot of it is getting children to be helpful, and what the differences are in those cultures versus American and Western cultures.
What's the name of the book again?
Hunt, Gather, Parent, and it is by Michaeline Duclef.
Michaeline Duclef. Also a very smart sounding name. Hey, here's what I think we should do next in the episode.